Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the QSP Knives Parrot. First off though, in the name of full disclosure, this guy was sent to me directly by QSP. Well, at least their US contact. I actually handled it at the Blade Show West. Said, whoa, 20 bucks, really? I said, yeah, okay, well, I'll check one out. And so that's what happened here. I told him, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. But they still did send it along. We do have to assume this is the best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let this affect the nature of my review. Honestly, if you think I'm selling out for a $20 knife, yeah, that's some quality conspiracy thinking right there. But anyways, so this is how that came from them, and so keep that in mind as we're going forward here. Next thing, let's do a size comparison here. Here it is against the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Here it is against the Spyderco Delica. So we can see here, yeah, we're looking at the reasonably small knife here. It's someplace in the in terms of functional blade length. It's in the Paramilitary 2 sort of area, but it's actually much smaller, which is nice. And then perhaps the, whoa there, almost fell over backwards. This would have been great during a video, right? Anyways, probably the closest point of comparison is the Ontario Rat number 2. So you can see here, blade length's a little bit longer, but overall size in the pocket is pretty solid. So there you go. And then finally a note, what the heck's a QSP? I'm assuming it's not QUISP, but I might call them QUISP just because, well, I call it Ruwaiki, right? I don't have a good history with these things. But anyways, QSP is a Chinese brand, and they're actually, this is a very budget-friendly sort of thing, but they actually have a larger sort of lineup. This is actually another QSP knife. I'm sorry, I should stop. Another QSP here. This is the Kylan, I believe. And you can see here, this is actually a titanium frame lock and such, so they are really trying to have a diversity of items in the lineup. But honestly, looking around their table at Blade West, the most compelling stuff was the low-end stuff, the budget stuff that was hitting a part of the market that was a little bit, well, frankly, less saturated. And so that's a QSP, and we will go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little knife right here. So to start with, and actually I want to preface all of this by saying 20 bucks. 20 bucks, maybe 21 depending where you're looking at it, but 20 bucks. Everything that I say has to be evaluated through the world of 20 bucks. And so a lot of people, oh my God, you're nitpicking it to death, it's 20 bucks. I know it's 20 bucks, but I nitpick things to death. That's what I freaking do. So calm it down there. But anyways, let's talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly in light of that. So on the good side, actually, one of the things I like is the size. This is using it's got a reasonably large blade here. In terms of sharpened blade length, we're looking at, 3.25-ish or so inches, which again, like I said, is about the same amount of sharpened blade as you get out of like the Spyderco PM2, but it's actually quite small. The knife itself is very compact to carry, and although it's a little bit thicker than you might expect, size-wise, we're coming in much smaller than the Spyderco Delica, so it's a pretty compact little knife here, which also makes it quite easy to carry, and I appreciated that very, very much. Next thing, clip on this guy is good to go. It's a solid piece of freaking spring steel that's bolted onto the side of it. This texture isn't so hard that it's going to eat your pocket. I felt like this was absolutely very easy to carry. It's also got a nice lanyard hole positioning, so you can pull it out there. Not the deepest carry ever particularly, but you know what? It works freaking fine. So the clip on this guy is good to go. Next thing, the action on this guy is actually surprisingly good for what you're getting here. There is I believe, a mix of phosphor bronze and Teflon washes in there, and so that's something to keep in mind. But you have it works, right? Put it back together, it works freaking fine. And it deploys well, especially once lubricated. This is an absolutely fine knife action. Is it, oh my God, drop shutty? Is it, super high-end action? No, but it's 20 freaking bucks, so it's fine. It's good to go. Good detent and everything like that. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, we're actually pretty decent here. The positioning, the clip, the overall effect of the knife makes this guy lock into the hand pretty well. And actually, like I said, ergonomically speaking, is it perfect? No, but it's way better than you'd expect for 20 bucks. So that's a nice thing. Then finally, the blade on this guy. Blade on this guy is, in a lot of ways, good to go. It has a relatively thin edge, which is actually nice. It's not, like, oh my, actually, it's pretty damn good. The steel on it is 440C, which is not the greatest steel known to man, but it's also 20 bucks. So, okay. I can live with that. It's got a nice edge on there. And you know what? Honestly, it's a nice shape too, with some flat, a little bit of belly, a nice strong tip here, sort of a classical spear pointy sort of affair. It's an absolutely solid blade, absolutely solid shape. No real complaints about that. And so to me, at least, all of that is the good. And actually, I'll go ahead and I'll throw a little bit of extra bonus, because there are a couple of little things here that they did for style that make this maybe a little more compelling. These little 3 lines here, again, $20. You didn't have to go there. And then even just this plunge grind being a little bit curvy to it, it adds a little bit of visual intrigue on a knife that they probably could have gotten away with just making a boring G10 piece. And so I gotta say, that's nice. And so to me, at least, all that's good is that there are a couple little design touches. The blade is absolutely fine for $20, and frankly, a good functional shape. It has a good action, fine ergonomics, and a nice clip at a relatively nice size. A great side. I bet you know what I'm about to say. I'm going to say $20 again. And you know what? That is a great thing, because I love seeing new budget options. I feel very self-conscious. Very often on my channel, I'm reviewing high-end stuff. I'm reviewing, $400 folders and things like that. Chris Reeve Impinda here. I'm reviewing high-end stuff very often on the channel, but I know that for a lot of my viewers, high-end isn't on the menu here. And so seeing another good option, competitive, coming in with good distribution, readily available, that kind of thing, for $20, you know what? Good to go. And considering that this one matches my experience with all of the ones they had on the table at the show, you know what? If it's consistent, they're readily available, that's a nice thing. So to me, the price is great. $20 is absolutely solid, and puts this right at the point where it's like, yep, all those flaws I can live with. And so to me, at least, that's what's great, is the price here. $20 is good to go. On the bad side, there are a couple little flaws here. I mean, to start with, there is a little bit, they could use just a little bit more sharpening choil here. There's a little tiny smile at the end. I'm nitpicking, but that's a thing. The studs on this guy are quite sharp. You can see that they learned a little bit from the Shabazz thumb stud, when that is really the very last thumb stud you should consider learning from. And so it's a little sharp, digs into the hand. This could use a detent ball ramp. Is that the end of the world? No, it's $20, but I have to say it. Next thing, this guy is a little bit off-center. It's not terrible. It's not, oh my God, brutal, but it is definitely a little bit off-center, and so that's something to keep in mind. Lock bar access could be improved. What I mean by that is that it's a little bit tricky to get in there and close this. I'd like to either see maybe a little bit of jimping on the top of the lock bar here, although that could be ergonomically disadvantageous, or you just make this scoop here just a little bit deeper, and then it'd be easier to get over the lock bar. Not a big deal, but it's a thing. This is one of the things, like for instance, this is a contrasting point where there's a whole bunch of scoops, so it's very, very easy to get over there and disengage the lock bar. It was the Spyderco emphasis, by the way. And then finally, I guess on the bad side is that it's a very generic-looking knife. At some level, QSP made this, but there's no sense of like, oh my God, this was this designer. There's no real feeling of, at some level, this looks like the kind of thing that you could find at any flea market anywhere. But the fact is, it's a fine little tool for $20, so I can't get too bent out of shape. But at the very least, that's the bad to me, is that it's a little bit generic. The lock bar access could be improved. This one's a little off-center. It could use a detent ball ramp, but that's ridiculous to say at $20. The studs are a little bit sharp, and I didn't quite get the sharpening choil. Ugly-wise, there's nothing here, so let's go into the final conclusion. Look, final conclusion, this is a damn fine knife for $20. Look, I mean, it's got a nice blade, which is good. It's got a good action. It's got fine ergonomics, a nice clip, and you know what? It's $20. I keep saying that, but really, that's an important thing to remember, right? I mean, there are so many things that you can say. Oh, and by the way, I should give you the weight real quick while I'm doing this, but there are so many things one can say. Yeah, 3.09 ounces, so it's lightweight too. There are so many things you can say about a knife. There are so many nits you can pick, but at the end of the day, if your price is this low, if it's relatively competitive, and it's super easy for pretty much anybody to pick one of these guys up, and that's going to be the price in the States, it might be even cheaper elsewhere, given that it's overseas made, you know what, there's a limit to how much I can really complain credibly. There are tweaks you could make, to the studs, the choil, sharpening, etc., lock bar access, but you know what? It's solid. It's good to go. And for the price, I think it's pretty nice. This is a tool I mean, one important criterion that I sort of use when I'm evaluating, especially a budget knife, is this a tool I would hand to somebody I like? Meaning, there were budget knives that are just unsafe, where I would not hand this to somebody that I cared about. I would just be a little bit worried about that. No, this is absolutely a solid little tool. This is a tool that I carried, that I used, and it was fine. It did the trick. Absolutely fine. But, the biggest question is, what are the other things in your price range there, right? And there are a lot of other good knives in that price range. You've got like the CRKT Pilar or whatever. The Cricket Sketch, the Squid. I don't care for the Squid, but still, there were a bunch of cheap knives in that sort of range. You got the Kabar Dozier. There were a lot of options out there. And the thing is, if you're willing to put in like $15 more, you can move up in the world. You can get like, for instance, the Ontario Rat 2 in D2, which just increases the steel a little bit. Gets you a slightly nicer design. I think I do prefer the Rat 2. But the thing is, so you can make big improvements, but just by putting a little bit more cash in there. But you know what? It's $20. And at the end of the day, this is a knife that you can buy 5 of for the price of most, midline, pocket knives these days. And that makes it an option for things like gifting. This makes it an option for things like throwing in the truck. This makes it an option just for, hey, my buddy needs a knife, or my buddy always uses or borrows my knife, so I just want to get him something that'll be safe, that'll be reasonable. This is a fine way to go. And so, you know what? If you're looking for cheap, then I think you might want to be prepared to pick one of these guys up. Because it's the Parrot? No? Okay. Anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting, that you are not parrotized with anxiety and trying to decide whether to buy one. Okay. Anyways, I hope, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and stop before I keep coming up with more parrot puns. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. They're just flowing into my... All right. Bye now.